one podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering community for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast. Mike,
I'm trying to be not sleepy, dude.
I thought you were just staring into my soul.
I gotta get my eyes wide open.
You're just,
With
man.
arms wide
I
open.
gotta crank them
The
open so that I
podcast
can
where we
stay
delve,
awake.
the podcast where we delve into the salty minds of the Magic Gathering community. We find the salty stories, the salty posts we love. We put them in our minecart and we bring them right back up to you, our dear prospectors at home. As always, I'm your host, Sam, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Tony and Lil Sleepy Mike. Say hey, guys.
What up?
Hey guys.
He's got the little blanket and everything
Hey, guys.
too. Like
That's just like cozy though. I don't even need to be sleepy to have the blanket, you know? That's just cozy core.
What do I have to say? I think I have like a point of order with like just podcast. What do you?
I thought you had a
call
point
this
of
kind
order
stuff?
with how much toughness Deathrite Shaman had.
Hey, not yet. Give me a minute.
Right now.
Give me a
I think
fucking
right
minute.
now.
The one thing I want to say is that, as always, the salty stories are the lifeblood of the podcast.
Mm.
We're getting so many now that it has become very hard for us to reply back whenever we get one and be like, thank you for the salty story. So just know that we are seeing all of the salty stories you guys are sending us. I just don't want anyone out there in prospector land to be like, I didn't get a message back. They didn't get my story. I'm reading them all, baby. I'm reading every message you send and laughing at all the shit and just can't wait to read it to Tony and Mike. That's all I want to do. Now you guys can fucking roast me.
2 toughness, dude. It's got 2 toughness.
Yes, I know now.
So, we've talked many times about how sometimes Sam gets so salty that he has to message people like after the game. And the last
shameful
patron
salt.
game night, I got some messages from Sam afterwards for sure.
Oh man. Yep. Let me have it, dude. Let me fucking have it. I knew this moment was coming, and I'm ready.
So we were playing a game of good old CDH. It's me, Sam, Beat.
Beat Farm, our lovely patron.
Mhm.
Beat was definitely there.
Yeah, Beat was playing in the Gila deck.
Talk about hashtag respect the feud.
I think it was Royal Flood.
I think it was
I
Flood.
think it was Flood.
Yeah, Flood was the other one. So we're playing, and Beat and Flood both are like, we're a little bit newer to this, like trying to like pilot stuff, want to like, we might fuck shit up, like whatever. Like, and we're like, that's cool. We'll play. It'll be fine. It'll be fun. I'm playing S tier Selvala,
Oh boy.
and fucking shredding on board.
Oh boy.
And
I was playing Blue Farm.
B was running Nagila, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Fuck, what was Flood running? Tassiger? No.
I don't fucking remember, man. I was drinking a lot of beers.
Yeah.
Was it just Blue Farm? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Take that again. Give another clean intro.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
Do you want me to set the stage for my own roast here, Tony?
Probably. I barely remember. All I remember is I started fucking drawing myself on.
Okay.
And you were like,
No. So this is what happened. See, I should have taken control to begin with, because I know you're gonna fucking misrepresent my salt, of which I am very ashamed. Let the record reflect. I feel bad, and I was very embarrassed. Like Tony said, sometimes I get so salty that I truly flip my lid and like
and say mean things to your friends.
yeah, and say mean shit, and just am like an absolute like whiny crybaby and shit like that. So yeah, very cool behavior for me to have. So this was on a Patreon game night, the most recent one we had, and we were playing a CDH game, and it was me on Blue Farm. Tony was playing Selvala, of course. Explorer
Bay.
Returned, if you were confused about which one he was
Mhm.
playing.
The better one, you know.
We had a couple patrons in with us. We were playing with Beat Farm, Tony's constant rival in the Discord.
Well, Is it a rivalry? Like, the
Yeah,
guy's
Beats-
kind of a scrub.
Beats
So
kind of got you crushed. So
yeah, fuck
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, there's no
God damn it.
competition.
Beat was playing Najila, and then we had Royal Flood, one of our other patrons. And Flood, I apologize. We can't fucking remember what you were playing.
As we usually say, get fucked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get fucked fourth player. Sorry.
Yeah.
which is bad because like I know it was a black deck, because Flood like had a Douthie out that was important. Anyways, so we're playing CDH, and this is like last game of the night, and Beat and Flood are like fairly new to CDH, so we wanted it to be sort of like a bit of like a game on training wheels. Like we were going out of our way to talk about mulligans a little bit more, going out of our way to like just talk about like play and interaction and like how our decks worked and stuff like that. It was like a pretty low key game. So at a certain point, I cast an ad nause and go down to like, I don't know, 11 life. And this is when Tony just starts like getting under my fucking skin and being like, you should really go to like 7 or something. And he's like, you got to do one more. You really got to do one more. He's like, if you were good at that deck, you would know you would do one more. Which, like, I don't think Tony's ever cast an ad nause in his entire fucking life.
I
Like, he was like,
absolutely have.
what, in your Selvala deck, dude? No,
No,
way.
in my fucking Keurig deck.
That deck you played once.
I played it at least twice.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
So, anyways, yeah,
I think I'm tasting some of the
Soundbite
salt
for a
right now
second.
again.
yeah, I'm fucking, this is the whole segment is me being salty about you. So Tony starts getting under my skin like he's doing right now on the show, folks, making me relive this. And I add nose on my turn and I just can't get there and I have to like pass, which is already a huge feel bad. I'm like, this fucking sucks. And I should have just add nose at instant speed on someone's end step, but I had a few beers. It was the end of the night. I'm also just trash and misplaced sometimes. So after I add nose, Flood cracks his Douthie Voidwalker and just also cast an ad nause. And I was like, oh yeah, I just fucking fed that right into the Douthie like a clown. And I just got shut out. You might have had a silence, Tony, but I just got completely shut out and like nothing happened on that turn. And Flood had like a fat grip of cards. So we go to Najila's turn. Beat does Najila things. We go to Tony's turn. Tony does Selvala things. We're drawing a shit ton of cards. He's parlaying a bunch. He's like threatening wins and we're trying to stop him. Tony's awesome misplay of the game was trying to cast Entwined Tooth and Nail on the stack when it's sorcery speed.
Yeah.
So don't think that Tony is above reproach here because he was the first to have like the biggest blunder misplay. And then you basically still just had to, because you had floated the mana and you went to cast it and we were like, you can't cast it. And you're like, well, I guess I have the mana floated. And then this is when I misplay, folks. So I cast an Orcish Bowmasters. I'm getting a shit ton of pings because of the Selvala triggers. So I'm hitting like a couple key dorks around the table. There might have been like an Esper Sentinel that I hit. And I put a damage on Beat's Deathrite Shaman.
Right. Beat had 4 mana up, a Deathrite Shaman, and a revealed Force of Will from some draw.
From Parlay. Had parlayed through a
parlay.
Force of Will. And we were like, okay, he can hard cast Force of Will. Now, mind you, I had Adnosed and sculpt like pretty much a perfect winning hand. And I was like, sick, I can fucking win on my turn. We just have to stop Tony now, and I have to get to my turn. So with the Orcish Bowmaster triggers, I have excess triggers. I end up killing Royal Flood with a couple of the triggers because, again, tons of Selvala stuff. And he had Adnos down to like 5. Again, because Tony egged him on Adnos like 1 or 2 more times, proving that I was right to not do that. Then we stop Tony. Tony ends up trying to cast the Tooth and Nail again at regular sorcery speed after all this shit resolved, and we just counter it, and it moves on. Comes to my turn, and I'm like, fuck yeah. I got it in the bag. I turned off Beat's Mana Dork. He doesn't have the
before
mana.
that, like on that turn, you had excess pings from the Orcish Bowmaster, and you put them on Selvala. So Zavala had 3 damage marked on her. She's a 2/4.
And Deathrite Shaman had 1 damage marked on it and a 1/2.
1 damage marked on a Deathrite Shaman.
I had spare pings and I could have killed the Deathrite Shaman, but I'm a fucking dingus and I thought it had 1 toughness. And then my thinking with the extra ones was like, okay, I'll put it on Selvala. Tony has all this floated mana. That's going to stop Tony from untapping and tapping Selvala again this turn because he knows I'll just kill Selvala with excess Bowmaster triggers. So it's not like I was throwing it away. I had some logic to try to stop you, but like an absolute clown, I could have, because of how Selvala works, I could have just put 2 on Selvala because the parlay would have given me 2 Bowmaster triggers and still have the same effect I wanted. And I could have killed the fucking Deathrite Shaman, who I thought was a 1/1 because I'm an absolute clown.
Yep.
Goes to my turn. I'm like, fuck yeah, I got it. Here we go. Big moves, doing my winning combo. Meanwhile, because of like the misplays and the stack and shit like that, Tony and I are so riled up. Like everything the other person's doing, we're just like, you fucking piece of shit, you know? Like it is no longer the tutorial.
I don't know how much
CDH
I'm
game.
really saying that. I think there's a
Oh
lot
my
of
God.
Sam
Oh, you
saying
were,
that.
dude.
So bad. Yeah, we were both salty. I was just worse.
Your aggression was getting very high though, because
I
you're
was
like,
absolutely
so ball's
aggressive.
a fucking shitty deck. Why do you want to play shit? Like,
Oh
I
man.
was like,
Well, because you just kept doing the thing you love to do, which is you're like, well, if you were playing a really good deck like Selvala, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. Getting so under my skin, just pushing my buttons in every way you know how
Oh,
to
yeah.
do perfectly. Go to my turn. I untap. I'm like, here it comes, baby. Here's the win con. I forget. I think it was an Underworld Breach loop that I had in hand. And I'm like, here it is. Cast Underworld Breach. And Beat is like, hardcast the Force of Will. I was like, oh, actually, Beat, I think your Deathrite
killed that
Shaman should
Deathrite
be
Shaman.
dead, right? And he was like, it's a 1/2. And I was like, fuck. He's like, I even said that. I was like, fuck. But I was too salty. I was too like tilted in the moment to even hear Beat. All I could focus on was Tony's horrible voice torturing me from a distance. So I fucking absolutely punt that game. I was super pissed.
Sam was salty as fuck.
Like I was salty because there's something like when you just fuck up because you're dumb and you're like not reading the board state right. And it's not even that I wasn't reading the board state right. Like I assessed threat correctly. I just didn't read the fucking toughness of the card, you know? And like the other thing is that I had it. Like I had it in the bag. If I had just killed the fucking Deathrite Shaman, I absolutely
if I had just used my resources better, if I had just drawn the right card.
Yeah, well, no, I had the right cards. If I just hadn't misplayed, man, if I just hadn't misplayed like an absolute goober, I would have had it. And all the while this realization is happening, Tony is just twisting the knife and putting in a second knife and also twisting that knife and just being like, you piece of shit. Like, yeah, you misplay. You can't pilot a good deck. Meanwhile, he fucking tooth and nailed on the stack, like on his turn, and like genuinely thought that would pop off. It was just so brutal. I was so fucking salty. And Tony just knew it was a great moment, was jumping on it. We had like an audience of a handful of Patreon members that were like between games that were watching. Thankfully for them, I'm sure it was extremely entertaining to see how fucking salty Sam can get from time to time. Even afterwards, Beat was like, wow, I think I saw some like real playgroup salt there. That was fucking awesome. That was hilarious. And I was like, I don't feel awesome and I don't feel hilarious. I feel embarrassed and stupid.
For everybody in the Discord, when you hear this, I need B and Flood to give their salt rating of Sam in this moment.
It was brutal, man. I think I was like, I'm not coming to your wedding. I was laying it on. I think we talked about how I was going to put Beat in my groomsman suit and send Beat to the wedding.
Yeah, Beat was going to show up for the wedding instead.
It got really salty. It got super heated.
Well, I actually wanted to read. So like I said, Sam got super salty. It felt a little awkward. We all left. And I got a message from Sam like 5 minutes later after I signed off. And he's like, love you, bitch. Kissy face. Also, I'm already bracing for this to be talked about on the pod. And then I was like, laugh out loud. It's the price of knowing each other for 10 years.
It so is. Like, I think that's the thing with Tony and I making each other salty is we know exactly what to say to make the other person like really pissed off.
Yeah, we see it happening, and we're definitely not backing down. We're like, I'm gonna make this worse right now.
Yeah, like the thing is, while I was like
Pour
absolutely
gasoline
raging,
onto the
Tony
fire.
just kept being like, seem a little salty, Sam.
Yeah.
Seem a little
Yeah.
salty right now.
We were making our we were tasting the air.
Oh yeah,
it was in the spectator seat at
yum.
that point.
It was quite the game. The epilogue to that is we played another game afterwards. Tony didn't stick around, but we played one more CDH game afterwards, and I did redeem myself, which thank God I needed to end that night with a win, or else I would have been absolutely salty.
Then earlier this week, you also whiffed a game, so that was good.
Oh
too.
yeah, that was pretty bad. But I didn't get as salty though. I was
No,
just
you
like,
didn't
well,
get-
I'm stupid.
Sam has been ripping on Selvala recently and like hating her. And it's like, this deck is fucking trash. And so now like she came to fuck. Like she heard and she was like, I'm upset. And like
Yeah.
our past game night 2 nights ago was like, she fucking slapped. First
Selvala
won and then
crushed.
almost won like 3 times in the next game. But fucking Mike on a Lotho deck, for fuck's sake, stopped me like 2 times. The blue players couldn't do shit, and somehow it was Mike and I
The
stopping
Orzhov
each
player
other.
and the Selesnya player
Yeah.
just blasting
It was kinda
interaction on the
spicy as
stack
fuck.
back at
Yeah.
each
It was
other.
just one of those games where like the interaction was super niche and super spicy,
Yeah.
and that game was wicked fucking long, but it
But
had
fun.
such an epic end. It was really, really fun. I will say, like, all my hate to Selvala, part of it is a bit of a shtick, of course, because we have the show, not to break the glass for everybody out there. But the other piece is that I just would love a slightly more diverse meta. Like, I would love to have a CDH group where I can play against actual meta decks and not just Selvala every week. And that's
Yep.
really it.
Yep.
Like, I have Marath. I don't play Marath every single game. I could, though, if that's what you want me to do. But I don't. You know, I got a bunch of top tier meta decks, and then I have my weird jank.
I just don't have decks. That's the problem.
Yep,
Yes.
it is the problem.
You act as if we haven't like offered to help you solve that.
Or like it's impossible to get another deck.
We haven't done an NPC order in a while. I feel like it's like one of those things. Like if one was happening, I would just be like, yeah,
But
hell
you
yeah,
could
why
also
not?
just do one.
But I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like I am the problem in that scenario, but it's like I don't.
Yes.
It don't like. I don't know. I
Well,
don't have a good answer for you. Like I don't have a desire enough to play other CEDH decks as it like currently stands. At least not enough that it would drive me to like make an NPC order.
Yeah, I
That's
feel
the real
you.
problem. Like if there was just like one that was here, boom. Like there's other decks I've thought about and like kind of want to have, but like I'm just like I don't feel like strongly enough to like go make it
I
happen.
could show you
So-
how to set up Moxfield and you'd be able to play it up right away.
I did
That
have
is
that and
true.
do it a little bit, and I feel like I don't love doing that. I do like its concept because I like not having to buy everything to like do it, but I just didn't. I did it a couple times when we were playing, and I just
You played
didn't like
Skullbriar or
love it.
something.
No, I played. Oh yeah, is that the name
Yeah,
of it?
I think it was
Skullbriar.
Skullbriar.
All I know is that old sticky fingers. Like,
Old stick fingers.
Oh,
not
that's what it was.
Skullbriar.
Stick
Yeah.
fingers. Yep.
yeah. Oh yeah, that is the name of the card. Right?
Yeah, that's the commander. Truthfully, you know, play what you want to play, but I think I have a desire to like play in a more diverse meta,
yeah.
just
I
to
get
like
that.
get reps in with like weird decks, because like when I'm playing on streams, I'm playing against these decks, and I'm like, oh my god, like what is this fucking spice? What does this deck even do? You know what I mean?
It's so legitimately good instead of just like weird and
Yeah.
kind of fringe
Whoa, whoa.
and bad.
Well,
And
y'all's
no
decks
good.
must really suck then because you
The
lost
no
to
good,
her.
very bad.
Can't even beat her.
Selesnya deck.
Hey man, even a broken clock is right once a day, right? Isn't that the saying?
Twice even.
Wait, is that a
Twice a
saying? I
day.
kinda
Wow.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Wow.
Well, should
Well-
we dive on in?
Should we get into it?
Yeah, guys, let's talk about some salt. You know, I'm quite frankly sick of roasting myself.
Yeah.
Let the record reflect that Tony couldn't summon up a roast good enough, and I knew you needed this dub. I knew I had to talk about my own salt. So
But Sam, what's salt, baby?
salt is frustration in the game. Actually, sorry. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for asking that.
That's fucking better. God damn it.
Salt is frustration in the game. Salt is when you are going for your win con and you know somebody has a counterspell in hand, and you can kill their mana dork so that they can't cast the counterspell. and you just assume all mana dorks have 1 toughness because you're a clown and a fool. And
you're
just
seething in your own salt, so you don't even hear the player being like, "Are you sure you don't want to add another point of damage?"
yeah, you're blinded by salt and blinded by the taste of victory on your lips that you just absolutely misplay and punt when the table is helping you to not misplay. You still manage to do it.
Yeah,
that's salt.
That's salt right there for sure.
That's it.
Real salt, baby. And we're going to talk about it today with the hopes that we don't get salty in the future. And clearly, that is not happening, folks. I will say my track record for massive salty outbursts is way lower than it used to be. But that one got me, man. That one got me good.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah.
Well,
shit.
Shall we get into
it?
It
should be.
But what is salt?
I already fucking said it.
It's frustration in the game.
This is bullshit. Mike's trying to steal my shit.
And I'm sweating like fucking crazy.
Like that.
Thank you.
Mike's like disapproval. It's just everything. I'm glad that we don't do video content, but it's moments like these that I wish the fans at home could see.
Could see like the facial expressions.
Yeah. But yeah, let's fucking get into it.
Let's do it. Guys, we have a pretty rare moment here in the salt mine. We have a follow-up story. Now, think back to episode 61.
Time machine.
I like that we all went to the same type of sound effect for that. I'm here for it.
Remember that Feldon player that was like kind of dishonest about their graveyard, or they were summoning like blight steals out of their yard and shit like that? You guys remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
We have a follow-up from a different person in that pod. And this one comes to us from our friend Whack, if you'll recall. It was, I think, win at all costs or something like that was their little pseudonym there. And the story goes, my name is Michael, also referred to as Whack in episode 61 of your podcast. I'd like to share my side, or more accurately described, the objectively correct side of the story. If you guys will remember, we went in pretty hard on poor Michael here. Granted, with the information we had at the time, like, it was totally appropriate. So to summarize, I'm a traumatized victim of the words you shared on a recent podcast episode, who plays Feldon of the Third Path, plays Burning Inquiry turn 1, and gets pissy when someone asks me what's in my graveyard.
We're sorry.
I'm not sorry yet. I'm waiting until I hear the rest of the story.
Fair.
I'm not sorry. That's showbiz, baby.
That's showbiz, baby.
As far as Pinkaspitz, or punk ass bitch, which we have since found out that is the actual.
Yeah, it is punk ass bitch.
The true name is punk ass bitch. You can ask him this yourself. He's a valuable member of our play group and a dear friend to me. Sometimes he'd bring us food and insist on not getting paid for it. He's been to my wedding, and he's even pulled a high-value mythic in a box and just gave it to one of us because he thinks it'll work in one of our decks. But as we all know, the battles between us planeswalkers are ones that can sometimes lead to tears and bloodshed. We respect our opponents enough to keep the kid gloves off and hope they respect us enough to do the same. Everything he said was true. If anything, he undersold me. I run Burning Inquiry not so that I can get cards in my graveyard. I have Tormenting Voice, Faithless Looting, and Cathartic Reunion for that. I run Burning Inquiry specifically so I can disrupt early game land drops and put my opponents at a land disadvantage early. Sometimes this works, and sometimes it doesn't. But everyone knows that me bringing my first and special deck, Feldon, out means the sock and boppers come off and the brass knuckles come on. If punk ass bitch has too funny for me to say. If punk ass bitch has a right to play Reaper King, our other friend has the right to play Send Triplets, and our other friend has a right to play Risk the Redeemed, then you shouldn't have any issues with the mono red Reanimator deck. Now, there is one part of his story and your interpretation that I believe lacked good faith. According to punk ass bitch, I hoard my graveyard and have an attitude when someone asks me what's in it. I was told it's been some time since the story was uploaded, and I've made active efforts at improving myself. It's been a long process, but I think I'm starting to see results. Before, when someone would say, "Hey, Whack, can I see your grave?" I'd say, "Sure thing, here." Now, after some much needed self-reflection and retrospection, I say, "Yes, my liege, and please place one creature from within it onto the battlefield as if you were casting Reanimate, except for the losing life part. I should also say you look lovely today. Please inform me of your next trip to the bathroom so I have the privilege of cleaning you up with my tongue before you exit."
Oh my god.
Your criticism for me, your criticism of me for the most part was fair, but the implication of me being a scumbag that bordered cheating was a little unfounded. Hope you enjoy the other side of the story. Have a good rest of your day. Whack. P.S. I accepted the Crackling with Power deal, which I forget what that deal was about, but I do remember the rest of the story.
It was to replace the Burning Inquiry.
Right.
Oh,
It was, I'll
yes.
give you a Crackling with Power if you replace the Burning Inquiry with it.
I fucking love this, man. I think it's very interesting when two people in a play group dunk on each other through the vehicle of our podcast.
This is one of the most solid first examples of that happening. I think maybe it's happened one more time, but this is a good one.
This is definitely it.
What I love the most is that he's just like, I am that, but I do share my graveyard.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like kind of a small detail. It's something that we talked about a lot, but it does make a big difference. But this is hilarious.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing because we do get these stories from people, and obviously there's some level of bias in many of the salty stories we get because it's written from the perspective of the person who generally was wronged in that story.
Yeah.
So, this could have been a couple instances of Pinkus Bits having like maybe one or two games where
Say that name again. What did you just say?
Pinkus Bits?
Pinkus
Punk-ass
Bits?
bitch? Sorry, that's like what it reads. There could have been like a couple instances where punk ass wanted to see that graveyard and maybe Whack was a little bit dodgy about it or a little bit cagey. And then in the story, it evolves into like, well, they do this every single time, shit like that.
Yeah. For the art of theater, everyone fucking like.
Exactly. Everything gets embellished. I mean, look at this like entire last paragraph that I just freaking read.
Yes, allow me to lick your asshole clean, my liege.
Yeah, you fucking filled in the blank there, Tony.
Someone's gotta. We were all thinking it.
Yeah, we definitely were.
There was one other thing about this post that I think we wanted to correct that we discussed, that potentially like there's an option to reanimate a Blightsteel. We want to go on record that's not possible. It's a replacement effect. Blightsteel never hits your graveyard. If it would, it gets shuffled back into your deck. So if there is any reanimation of a Blightsteel going on, call foul on that.
Yeah, I would say in that situation, the borderline cheating is a little founded because you can't do that.
That's beyond borderline.
But clearly, from the fact that we didn't get it right, it's not so straightforward.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm glad this story talks about like that is unfounded on the graveyard stuff. That's just one of those things where like the view of the players matters so much. If you're the person putting stuff into your graveyard, you know what's putting in there. Maybe you even say it out loud. You're like, hey, I'm putting a couple things in there. You don't feel like it's your responsibility to say, hey, I'm putting this scary thread or this scary thread in there. Like, it's not really your job to do that. You are putting it into a public zone. So if someone asks, you've got to be able to tell them.
But don't lick their butthole.
I encountered this the other day while we were playing. Like I had used a Peer into the Abyss. I had like 40 cards in my hand and I had to discard down to hand size. And I was in a deck that cares about the graveyard. And it's like at that point, I'm not going to list every single card that goes into the graveyard, even the relevant ones. Like I can. And if anyone has any questions about like, hey, what's going in there, I would answer them.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you can't really just list every single card. It slows the game down too much. It's maybe kind of obnoxious. So there is a back and forth. There's a medium there of like, you have to ask for some of that information versus you have to tell people that information. So definitely point taken on like, maybe we may have erred a bit too far on the like share your information aggressively side. But generally it is probably better to lean towards that than not letting people know what's going on.
I think so too. And also, like, we're only as good as the stories we hear, right? So if it sounds like someone's being super cagey with what's in their yard, like, of course I'm going to call that shit out.
What Sam is saying is we're never at fault, and it's always the poster who's writing in, and
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is exactly what I was saying. That's literally exactly.
We're blameless and perfect and never get anything wrong.
Yeah, of course, except for the Blightsteel thing, which I did try to correct Mike on, and he insisted.
Oh my god!
He insisted that you can fucking reanimate Blightsteel.
This is slander.
I do think it's really funny that they're just like, hell yeah, I run the Burning Inquiry just to fuck with people on turn one. Because we talked about that and we are like, well, please into Feldon. Stepping away from just like two friends kind of dunking on each other with these two stories, I do kind of get a feeling that like if Whack here thinks that the kid gloves are off and we're just playing no holds barred, I did kind of get the feeling that punk ass bitch wasn't in that mindset. You know what I mean? Like if certain cards are pissing you off or you're like frustrated about something busted that somebody is doing, are the kid gloves really off in that situation? Is there like maybe a power level discussion that should be there? Whack talks about how, hey, if I'm playing this deck, everybody should know that it's no holds barred. We're going to be playing some like absolute real trash magic, as we like to say. But maybe you just have to articulate that a little bit more when those games happen. Maybe you are doing that. And again, maybe this is just sort of like difference of opinion with these two stories. But we're trying to find like the truth kind of between the two of them. And if that salt comes up, be like, hey, this is no holds barred. Turn one Burning Inquiry to fuck with your setup turn is entirely valid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess there's an element of if you just say it, if you just admit to it, it feels better in some ways. But at the same time, if somebody like, I feel like I wouldn't love that. Like if one of you guys are like, well, yeah, I'm playing it just to fuck with you. I'd be like, okay, well, great. I do still fucking hate that. So, like, can we not? Like,
I mean, that's why I built my entire Marath deck.
Yeah, but that whole thing should just go in the trash when you're Burning Inquiry. Like,
my whole deck.
Yeah.
In a literal trash can.
Yeah. I'll allow it. I'll let it happen.
That's a rule 0. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a assault rating for this? It feels like it's kind of like a rebuttal, but.
Whack is mad salty. Did you hear that like last paragraph I read?
Well, no, like totally. I just mean like it feels different. I don't know that it like if it gets one or not. I guess it get.
I don't know. Whack's basically saying like, hey, we play high power. I am a bit more honest about my graveyard contents than you guys let on in the previous story or than what was discussed in the previous story.
Yeah, but then he admits that he is like running it just to fuck with people. So like, I feel like for me, my salt rating for the last one doesn't change because if anything, I feel like we were giving him a little more credit. And it's like, nah, maybe it like works. He's like playing the Burning Creeper. I was like, nah, he's just trying to fuck with people. Like, so I think the original salt is still justified. But I do hear that like he's not a scum lord with the graveyard.
Yeah. It's a rebalancing of the salt. Before the salt was there because of like the graveyard shenanigans. Now it's there because you're absolutely just trying to like wreck people with that Burning Inquiry turn one. Which hey, if that's the power level you're at, like I fucking respect it
for sure. Well,
shall you have a second one here, guys?
Another one.
Let's do it. So this next story comes to us from Patreon, and this one comes to us from our buddy Media Magnet. And the post title here is Scooped at Turn 4. It goes. This one happened last Tuesday. Well, it's been a while, but it happened on a Tuesday, I guess I could say. I was playing my Jodah Archmage deck into a Wilhelt Sack Things to Make Zombies deck and an Urza Chief Artificer Artifact Printer deck. 3-player pod woes aside, the game had started out pretty smooth. Mostly just play land and pass. We get to turn 4. I'm finally ready to put Jodah on the table, as the next turn I'd hopefully be able to set something out that was rather big. So I tap lands, play Jodah, and pass to the Wilhelt player. He drops his land and dumps a Fleshbag Marauder on the field. I have to sacrifice Jodah, and I complain about not being able to bounce back if my commander is just going to get noped off the field before I have the chance to spin up. So I look down at my hand, see my remaining lands. I have in my hand all lands that enter tapped. So basically it was, do I spend 2 or 3 turns being the table punching bag, or do I cut my losses? And I decided it was less pain to cut my losses. So I sit there in my own salt as the zombie horde runs away with the table. And based on the title, scooped at turn 4.
Turn 4 though. How much mana is Jodah to get out?
Let me look it up. Let's read a couple cards here. So Jodah Archmage Eternal is 4 mana, costs 1, a blue, a red, and a white. It's a legendary creature, human wizard, a 4/3 with flying. You may pay Wooburg rather than pay the mana cost for spells you cast. Also, if we've never read it before, and if you don't know what it is, Fleshbag Marauder is a zombie warrior. It's a 3/1, costs 2 and a black. When Fleshbag Marauder enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature.
Yeah, I feel like you might not know the name, but everybody knows that effect.
Yeah.
Somebody plays a fucking creature and like, hey, we're all sacrificing one now.
Yeah.
And we all have been in the scenario, I would wager, where your commander is that one creature you have that you need to sack.
And Fleshbag is at such a sick rate because you cast it and you just sack itself.
Yeah.
And then you reanimate it. And then like in a reanimator deck, most people are playing Fleshbag Marauder to just abuse it and knock down the table.
I will certainly say that I sympathize with the Jodah player because I understand like that type of scenario because I play a Prismatic Bridge deck and I've had the bridge removed and it's like it's the only thing the deck does. And it feels really cool because you're just cheating out fucking stupid shit, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
But as soon as people are like, okay, well, I'm not going to let you do that, then it's like boring for you and you can't really do much. I will say if they scooped on turn 4, it means they had like a pretty good turns 1, 2, and 3 because if they already had Jodah out and we're going to be able to activate it the next turn, like they're already like a couple turns ahead, right?
Yeah, I mean they're pretty much on curve, like 4 mana on turn 4, 5 mana.
Well, I was assuming they like played it on like turn
ahead.
3 and then like turn 4 they were going to activate it. Either way, like that definitely blows. Like it's not I sympathize with them, but like these kinds of decks, it's the only way to stop them. Otherwise, they're just like a snowball out of control. So like you have to just remove the thing and you have to do it before they get value. You can't be like, all right, I'll let you get like a couple things in because those couple things are just going to fucking probably lock you out. Like,
yeah. We talk about linchpin commanders and linchpin commanders that cheat in stuff are even a second level of it, right? Because most of the other things in the deck are things that need to be cheated in that like you can't really resolve otherwise. Like other linchpin commanders, you get removed and like your main strategy gets hindered, but you can still play the other cards in your deck. They're just not getting like the crazy value off of the one commander card that happens to interact really nicely with them. In this case, these cheating commanders, like they get in and you need them. Otherwise, every single card you draw, it's like, okay, well, I can't cast this. I can't cast this. I can't cast this. Okay. I have tapped lands in my hand and my game plan is slowed down even more. So, you know, you can look to mitigate that in your deck. Like you might notice that your deck is built that way. And maybe you need backup plans that are a little more like resilient. Otherwise, you're going to encounter this and you just kind of got to take it as what the deck is going to experience sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes the move is to also wait and like not play your commander until you can at least get one activation, one whatever it is. Like Tony, Mr. No Removal, I love fucking linchpin commanders, and I play so many of them, and I've learned over time, as my play group has forced me to learn, that doesn't ride so well. Like I played like an Omnath Locus of Rage deck where like I had to have Omnath out for the deck to do anything, and it just got removed so many times. I played a Locust God deck where it's the same thing. Like if Locust God isn't out, my deck doesn't fucking do anything.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the Prismatic Bridge. And I've only recently started building things where it's linchpin, but in a different way. It's more of there's like an effect that the commander does that when it's out, cool, but it doesn't have to be out. Like my deck is doing things otherwise, or it's not threatening enough alone to be removed. So it's like kind of just got to start changing your gameplay style because You're not always going to be able to splooge everything out. Though I
Mhm.
want you to be able to. Don't get me wrong.
Tony,
I feel for you. I
can
want
you
you to
pick
have that
any
experience.
other word?
I could, but
Can you
like
pick
it was
any
the first
other
one that came.
word?
And Tony was flipping through his middle school dictionary. He's like, splooge. I haven't said that in a couple weeks.
God damn it.
I mean, I totally agree with what you guys are saying. I think when you have a linchpin commander that is like getting disrupted this early, I think things to consider are like protective interaction. And the other thing would be redundant pieces. Sometimes with these linchpin commanders, there is a card out there that does something similar, maybe slightly worse, but you can still put that in the 99 of your deck. So, like, for example, if Alesha dies, I have other pieces in the deck that can reanimate. For example, with Jodah, Fist of the Suns is a card, and it does the exact same shit that Jodah does as an artifact. Granted, it may be in your deck. It probably wasn't in your hand at the time, but just as general advice, like having some of those redundant pieces are going to make it so even if your commander gets super locked out, you can still see a path to victory, and it won't be at the point where you just have to scoop, you know? But if you're constantly like, well, let me just keep jamming my commander out, and if it doesn't happen, my deck does nothing, then you will find yourself in this situation where it's like, well, my commander got removed 2 times, and I can't pay for this crazy commander tax it has now. So I'm pretty much just out of the game, especially like you said, Mike, with decks that have free value. Typically, those decks aren't built on curve, and you have these like super high value cards in the deck that if you have to cast them normally, it feels really bad.
Yeah,
But to
really,
cheat it
really
out
bad.
feels great, you know?
Yeah.
And when you're stuck just with a grip full of stuff you need to cast normally, that is a bad place to be.
Yeah. That trap of like you must play your commander for your deck to work feels so bad when it's 7 or 9 mana. And it's like
Yeah.
sometimes you're literally like draw, play a land to just hope to get to the next turn. I feel like that's what made me start to switch playing some of those decks, because I kept finding my commander would get removed, and then I literally couldn't do anything else. I was like, I have nothing to contribute that's good. I just need to play a land and get back around to the next turn when I can cast my commander again. And like that play pattern, I was like, man, this sucks. The boys
Yeah.
have figured it out, and I can't be left alone.
If all someone needs to completely shut you out of the game is one sacrifice, a turn rotation,
Yeah.
like people are gonna find ways to set that situation up, and you're gonna end up locked out, you know?
Yeah.
So what do we think about the salt rating here on this one?
It's a sulky salt, you know? It feels
Yeah.
bad. It's a disappointment salt. We talk sometimes about non-games, and this is sort of an example of that. Like you get your commander out, it's gone, you have nothing else to do. It's barely like you played a game of Magic. It's missing all the hallmark signs of a game of Magic of like casting multiple spells, interacting with people, hitting people for damage, having stuff develop. Like it's missing all of that. It's kind of like you didn't play a game. And that is a bummer because you were expecting to play a game and you have a mismatch of expectations. So that's pretty high salt, but it's also like you just gotta deal with it sometimes. And if it's happening repeatedly, it's something where you could check if your deck needs to be adjusted to make that not happen as often. But if it happens once every 20 games, it's just kind of what's going to happen.
Yeah. All I can say is I feel for you.
Mm-hmm.
I know this salt. I know the sadness behind it. I see the salt in your eyes, and it's sad. It's deep. It's not great. And eventually I learned to I just don't really play those types of things anymore. Like, honestly, you get like 1 or 2 good runs in. You get a game or 2 where no one's really expecting it to do what it does, and you're fucking king of the hill. You're fucking popping out world spine worms. You're like doing all sorts of shit, and you're like
Selling
you
propane
feel
and
the
propane
power.
accessories.
Yeah.
And then your play group's like, oh, well, I'm not going to let that happen anymore. And they just fucking remove it every time. And you're like, okay, well.
Yeah, because you made them do it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I can't even tell you the last time I played the bridge, and I can't tell you when I'll play it again. It just, I don't think it'll happen. I might as well just take it apart.
Dude, like I have lived the salt because it wasn't a Jodah deck, but I used to have a Morophon elemental deck So it was all just jammed full of like my
Did the
favorite
same
elementals, super powerful, but it had the same trick because Morophon reduces the cost of a specific creature type by Wooburg. And then if you have Jodah out and all your creatures cost Wooburg, well, now you're casting shit for free. So it was very similar trick centered around the same thing. And typically with that kind of deck, the commander wasn't necessarily the linchpin I had, but the linchpin for me was always like a draw trigger. Like I had Risen Reef or something else like that. And Risen Reef, I remember specifically the one where it would pop off.
Yeah.
And I was playing it and I got to the point where every time I would cast Risen Reef, somebody at the table would be like, destroy that shit. And it never, ever hung around.
Yeah.
I got to this point where I just couldn't build the engine because the engine was too obvious. And Jodah is a bit like that. And the bridge is like that. It's crazy value town. And it's incredibly powerful if left alone. But if people know the deck or the type of deck that gets centered around those commanders, they're never going to leave it alone.
Yeah.
Like if someone's playing Jodah against me, I'm removing that Jodah every single game because I expect someone's going to play an Omniscience and everything's going to be free. And I don't want to face that shit.
Yeah. Well, should we hit another?
One last one.
Yeah, guys, let's do one more. You know what, guys? It's been a pretty salt heavy episode. You know, I was laying my salt bare. That wore me out. We heard the salt of Michael, who was done wrong by our show. Not really, because we don't do anything wrong ever. You know, it's been a lot of salt. I could use something a little bit sweet in my mouth.
I certainly could.
Sugary.
Sweet.
Hey, a little bit of sweet.
Hey.
something a little sugary, perhaps. That's right. We have a
Funnel cake?
no. We don't have a funnel cake. We have a sugar break for you, everybody. Sugar break.
Bow, bow, bow. Yeah.
Nice.
Is that
Yeah,
it?
dude. That's it.
That's the
it
new.
right there.
That's good. That's
That's it
good.
right there.
Like it.
I don't know if this is intended to be a sugar break, but I think it's pretty sweet. I don't think Tony will. This might be a divisive sugar break,
Interesting.
but it's sweet for me.
After I gave you that sweet, sweet music,
You gave me 3 notes.
3 golden notes. Thank you very much.
This one comes to us from our buddy on Reddit, Aegis001. Longtime listener, has sent us a bunch of stuff. Love you, Aegis. If you guys see Aegis001 around the subreddits, give him an upvote. You know the drill. Spread that goodwill. And the post is titled Heartwarming Stax.
Oh my
Aw.
God, fuck you.
Aw.
Right,
You
Mike?
would
Isn't that
consider
so
this
sweet?
a fucking.
Tony, could you keep it down over there? Isn't it so
Oh my
sweet,
God.
Mike?
Oh,
Isn't
I
that
love
so
it.
Nice.
Great.
So
My heart is so warm.
Hello, Foreman. Today I wanted to share a story of kids learning the hard way.
It sounds real sweet.
Aw.
You know,
Maybe I
educating
will
the
like
youth,
it.
Tony. It's educating the youth. It's so
Aw.
good.
Learning. It's so good for people.
Learning is good.
Mm.
I was in my LGS today, sleeving up the Token Triumph Precon to help my new friends learn how to play Magic. There's a group of kids in the store, no older than 12, playing a 7-person game of Commander, a horror beyond my comprehension.
Oh, God. Please teach them.
They were playing with some spice, too. Dragon, Emoti, Yurlock. It was a cool table. But one of them was playing a hard Stax list, helmed by, of course, Grand Arbiter Augustin IV.
Yes.
God.
And you know what? They were all loving it. They were picking off Stax pieces, fighting through the Gave. I've never said Gave.
I don't know why you said it like that just now.
GAAIV. That's how it gets abbreviated.
What is that?
Grand Arbiter,
Grand Arbiter Augustine IV.
Augustine the Fourth.
Oh, I thought you were just adding agave into like the pod.
You know, I wouldn't
Like
say
there
it
was
that way,
agave
baby.
deck. Like,
Gavi's Gavi. He ain't no Gave.
well, no, that's why I was like, why would you say that? I didn't even. I've never heard Grand Arbiter Augustine ever referred to as Gabe.
I've only read it that way. I've never spoken it into existence. They were picking off Stax pieces, fighting through the Grand Arbiter players' attempted locks, and laughing while swinging huge creatures and using the Stax to politic. It warmed my salty little heart to see the younger generation not only appreciate Stax, but play around it and not be salty about it. I know Sam will be happy to hear about this mythical no-salt Stax table. I always love to see new players enjoy just playing the game, however it takes form. Stay salty. Wow, Aegis, that was really sweet. That does warm my heart.
It does.
I think Stax is kind of fun to play into sometimes. It's sort of like a puzzle. Like I take my deck and it's like, okay, how can this win when a specific resource or action is restricted? You know what I mean?
And honestly, with 7 people too, like 6 people are going to be unhappy about certain Stax pieces, you know? So stuff is not going to stay around forever. Like those pieces aren't, it's not like a rule of law hits and then the entire game plays out under a rule of law. It's like a rule of law hits, maybe makes it a turn rotation, and then someone draws into their removal for it.
Well, you hope if they're running removal.
I mean, these decks sound spicy. I bet they had some removal. I really like the politic aspect of this because I imagine there's like positions at the table where there's, I don't know, some kind of Stax piece out, a cursed totem's out. It's like, hey, I don't have creature activated abilities. You don't have creature activated abilities. Let's keep that shit out because we're stopping these 4 other players. And that kind of like political vibe sort of taking over the table. I think that's really, really cool.
Are you kidding me? I'm not even gonna know. They're like fucking 10 feet away from me down at the other end, like for all these goddamn players in between. I'm not even gonna know that there's a Stax piece down there. Like the fuck.
The 7-player game is a little bit wild. I love how that gets like glossed over and they're like, it's a horror beyond comprehension. Anyways, these little kids, that just feels like the most like 12-year-old, I drank a couple of Coca-Colas and I'm fucking hype for life type of games, you know? Yeah. Like, let's all pile in and do it.
Those are like amazing games too. It's like we're not playing with 7 people because we think that's the best way to play the game. We're playing with 7 people because we have 7 friends here and we're not going to leave someone out, you know, or break it into 2 games.
We're down to be like goobers for, I don't know, 6 hours, 7 hours.
Yeah.
probably an hour each player. 7. Yeah, that makes sense. For each one of their goddamn turns. Fucking Christ.
So obviously, like, we know, Tony, we know how you feel about Stax. You do not like it. Is there ever a situation where you enjoy like playing through it or anything like that?
No.
Asked and answered. Obviously, I like it.
The only time I like it is when somebody tries to fuck me with Stax, but it doesn't like work. And like, I can only think of like maybe Grenzo. I think there's like once or twice when like something happened where it's like Grenzo like plays through that kind of stuff a lot of times because it's just like an activated ability. Like if you're hitting my activated abilities, I'll probably hate you even more because that's generally what like almost a lot of my decks tend to like survive around activated abilities and things. Like that's what I like because it's instant speed. Like I like being able to do things at instant speed, and a lot of stack stuff will either prevent that or make it harder to do that.
Yeah,
it's true.
So yeah, I'm never really happy about it. I'm not like, oh, I did it, I got through it. I'm like, nah, like I just wish it wasn't there. I know it's a part of the game, but anyway.
Well, let me ask you guys this. What is your least favorite Stax piece? What is the one that gets you the most tilted? The one that you see like regularly. Like we all hate Winter Orb. You know, don't waste your vote on that shit. Like the one that you see typically in a game, what frustrates you the most?
Blind obedience.
Yeah. Fucking heard that. Yeah, that is so true.
All my creatures, all my artifacts, everything comes in tap. Fuck that shit.
I think for me, it is Teferi Time Raveler.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be Opposition Agent for me.
Really? Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Op Agent is stuff.
I feel like each one of us doesn't give a shit about the other ones.
Right.
Like,
you hate the thing that screws you over, right?
Yeah.
Like my decks all tutor, so they all hate when their tutors are shut off, you know? Like your decks all do activated abilities. Sam likes to do stuff at instant speed.
Yeah, so, for me, Teferi Time Raveler just locks the game out in such a weird way that like sometimes I feel like it hands wins to other people and I don't like that. And other times it's just a silence effect that you can't do shit about, and that is tough too. obviously, like the context that I'm usually seeing it is your Sisei deck, so it just comes right out to the battlefield. But it's just a very challenging card to play around because you can't really play around it, and it's got removal staple to it. I mean, it's just a dope ass card, you know.
Yeah. I guess it is Stax. The only time I like it is when somebody cracks their fetch and I'm like, excuse me, I have a response. It's real good when it's an op agent, but I'll accept it when it's a fucking Aven Mind Sensor.
Dude,
I
Op
hate
Agent is one of those ones that because so few people in our group play it, I always fucking forget about it.
Yeah.
Like I just played into one, I don't know, it was maybe a couple months back. I was playing against Ian and he had a black Manosaurus and a Mana Crypt up and just passed turn. And I was like, I'm going to tutor. And he was like, Op Agent? I was like, motherfucker, dude.
And he
I
was
just
like,
forget that card
see
exists,
that coming?
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were all like, "Oh, your Op Agent radar wasn't on." I was like, "What Op Agent radar? You have radar for this card? I've never seen this card in my life. I don't even know who this man is."
I've just got a guy with like big cups on his ears trying to listen for that. I never noticed that.
Yeah, I don't fucking know anything about that shit, man. Yeah, Op Agent's pretty rough for sure.
I was gonna say what's the salt rating here, but I don't remember what the fuck the post was.
It's
Where
a
did we
sugar
go?
rating, man.
Oh, it's
I mean,
sugar.
sugar
Yeah,
rating.
yeah. Fucking is it sugar
Maximum.
though?
This is like 4. This is like 14 cans of Coke, like just OG Coke.
It's enough for each kid to have two.
Each kid has 2. No, none of this no sugar stuff. Full on, just like chugging sodas.
Yeah, my sugar rating for this is a 12 pack of Mountain Dew and a handful of Fun Dip packets. Just fucking pure unadulterated sugar straight to the brain,
Yeah,
man.
and like a Snickers and some Skittles tossed in here and there.
Oh, dude, Skittles is so good.
I feel like for me, it's the powdered sugar on top of the funnel cake that I didn't get, which means it's non-existent. Fuck this shit. Fuck 7-player games and fuck Stax. But it's cute, I guess, a little bit.
Right? Isn't it? It's a little heartwarming.
It's a little cute.
A little bit.
A little
Fucking
bit.
A little bit.
I like it.
A little bit.
All right.
Well, I like it.
A little bit. It's a little bit cute.
I hope none of that makes it in.
Oh, it's all staying in, dude.
Oh, fuck, baby. Hey, Sam.
Yeah, Tony?
Is it that fucking time of the week?
Ooh, I think it is. I think it is that time of the week.
Sure hope so.
It is that time of the week, Tony. It's the
I
time
was
of the
gonna be
week
like,
where
what
we
time
say,
is it?
Yeah, right. Guys, remember when we said that Tony's getting married if we need to record doubles? If you haven't guessed,
That's what this is, baby. Let go.
it's that time of the week, Tony, where we say, Mike, what's the salty card of the week?
I was gonna try and say it at the same time as you, and then
Oh, let's do it. Ready?
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
of
Of the week.
the week
Of the week.
of the. Okay, one more time.
Of the week.
Week.
Are we about to sing the fucking salty song of the week in unison, Tony?
Oh shit. Yeah, let's just mind meld real quick. All
Yeah.
right, my mind is melded. Okay.
Salty card of the week this week is
I'm here without you, baby. But you're still on my salty mind. I think about you, baby. And I dream about you in the mind.
That was good.
that was good.
I like that's one of those songs that I like sort of know the words, not like well enough, but I know that it's like close to that. And I was like, oh, that fit nice.
Dude, so I've been like obsessed with these AI songs where they take like a SpongeBob SquarePants character and
Yeah.
make them sing a song with AI. And I listened to this one earlier where Plankton sings Here Without You by Three Doors Down, which was the song I just sang. And man, almost without fail, every single one that Plankton sings fucking, it's a banger, dude. I'm like listening to some of the System of a Down covers that the AI Plankton does, just like because I want to hear that song and I think it's good. He's got this soulful voice, man. I'm gonna put it in the show notes. People are gonna be listening to this.
We're gonna be like, what the hell is this in the notes?
There is something about it. Maybe I'll even just like rip a clip and throw it in the bloopers or something, because there's just something that it's like so close to the regular voice. It's kind of this like new metal-y thing that Plankton's got going on, but you know it's Plankton. Man, it fucking gets me every time. I'm like cracking up, and then I'm shedding a tear for old Planky boy.
Well,
what are we doing?
Salty card of the week.
I was like, what's happening right now?
Salty card of the week this week is Edgar Markov.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It's 3, a red and a black for a legendary creature, Vampire Knight with Eminence. Whenever you cast another vampire spell, if Edgar Markov is in the command zone or on the battlefield, create a 1/1 black vampire creature token. First strike, haste. Whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. It's a 4/4. So,
yeah.
Tony, what do you think about this guy?
I think it's kind of stupid. Like, Eminence is just stupid. And I think everybody kind of like agreed with that and was like, this is kind of broken and dumb. And of them, the Edgar Markov one was the most broken. Like just permanently, like, let me just get a fucking 2/2 for nothing every fucking turn. Like every fucking turn.
Well, it's a 1/1, but yeah.
Whatever. Same fucking difference. Like, come on. Like, let me get a body for free every goddamn turn. Like, that's just kind of stupid.
Hey, let me get a body. Hey,
let me get a body. Hey,
get a
body. Fucking body.
You can get a body for free.
Get a body for free. That's what I'm fucking talking about. That was only half accent, half me.
Yeah.
It doesn't honestly give me a ton of salt because I haven't really seen it played. Like, nobody in our group played it. I think this is one of those like kind of overdone ones where it came out, fucking everybody and their brother was playing it. I can definitely see how it generates salt. And I mostly think it generates salt because I do think it's dumb and like pushed in a way that I'm like, why? It's not like the most broken thing on the planet or anything, right? There's tons of more powerful stuff out there, but it just feels like you don't even have to do anything. Like, because you selected this as your commander, you just get this random free value every fucking turn.
Mm-hmm.
I like the concept of Eminence, but I think they did it poorly when it was done.
How about you, Sam? What do you think?
Yeah, big agree with Tony right there. I think Eminence is a pretty stupid mechanic. I see why they did it. Like, I understand the design space that it was built in, but I just don't think that Eminence holds up anymore in like the more high power meta that just general EDH exists in. Like, this precon was pretty busted when it came out. I mean, getting the free body is insane. And when you cast Edgar and you're just souping up every vampire you control with giving it a +1/+1 counter, like, think of all the different vampires that are out there released in the older Innistrad sets, and even the newer Innistrad sets that get +1/+1 counters when they deal combat damage to an opponent and shit like that. So the synergy is just insane. I haven't played against this commander a lot, but when I have, it is just absolutely busted. Like, the value snowballs so hard, and it, in all of my experiences against an Edgar Markov deck, it takes this like Herculean effort, this like Avengers team up with the other 3 players to just keep the deck in check. I've even played against like lower power budgety builds with Edgar where people were like, yeah, this is kind of my like lower power deck, but it does run Edgar. And I feel like this has a Eureka issue where you can't really build a low power Edgar deck unless you don't put Edgar in the command zone or you don't cast vampires. Like, it, it's just one of those commanders that printed, and if you just build it, even if you build it with just like a handful of brain cells, you're going to come away with an incredibly powerful deck that just has synergy naturally, you know?
That's totally the problem.
And vampires are a very powerful creature type. Like, the vampires that are out there.
Yeah, there's so much support for it. Like,
yeah, and some of them are really cracked and like can steal creatures. Like Olivia Volderon's can, a couple of them, or the original Olivia Volderon can like turn creatures into vampires and take them. And I think there's a couple other vampires that do that shit. So it just has this insane snowball that is very, very challenging to beat up. I was shocked when you first said this, and now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, this does make me salty. Mike, how do you
How
feel
about you,
about
Mike?
this?
I hear where you guys are coming from. I've never really played against it, so I haven't had much experience with it. I have like goldfished some of the CEDH builds of it because it does
Oh.
have some lines. You can use like that free vampire to do some nice things with like Razaketh lines where you're using that free token to generate extra tutors off of a Razaketh, basically.
Sack it.
Right, to just sack it. But I do really love like vampires as a creature type. Like I played a lot during Zendikar when there were some interesting vampire things going on, and then
There were Vampire Nighthawk, dude. Shout out to
Yep.
Vampire Nighthawk. That card is fucking cracked.
exactly, and
Still
like
really good.
Blade of the Blood Chief
Yeah, but now
and
you just
stuff.
play Nighthawk Scavenger or whatever.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. So I really like the creature type, and I have eyed Edgar Markov a couple times as like a potential deck to build, but I think it definitely has the issue you were talking about, Sam, of just like the floor of this deck is really, really high. It also has that issue where if you're going to build a vampire deck, it's very high on the list of commanders you might choose
Yeah.
for it, right? Like you're intentionally powering down if you choose a different commander for a vampire deck, probably. Like there's realistic ways that you would build a stronger vampire deck with a different vampire commander, but like it is clearly the staple commander for it, much like Dragon is one of the best,
Yep.
dragon commanders for it.
Well, because it's also 3 colors too, right? Like
Exactly.
there's not that many vampires that are 3 colors that like give you access to all of the toys, right? So
And-
it's also
and
enticing.
Yeah.
those 3 colors of including white, because white has a lot of these weird offshoot vampires that
Yeah.
a lot of the other multicolor vampire commander options are like Grixis, and you don't get that option.
Yeah, or there's like some Rakdos vampires that are out there and things like that. So you're
Yeah.
generally looking at like a smaller color pie.
Right. So I see where people are coming from on it being a salty card. I think it's a bummer. I wish this was like a more accessible card for people. It would even be nice if it didn't have that as eminence and it was just like a if it's on the battlefield kind of effect.
Yeah.
Because I think it would still be equitably powered with a lot of other commanders that are out there at that
If
point.
it was like 1 or 2 mana cheaper and didn't have the eminence effect, I think it would be fine.
Yeah. I'm salty that it's not really like a realistic option for me to play because I think you guys would be mad at me. But I'm not salty about it as a card too much, personally.
Interesting. I was gonna say I wouldn't be mad at you, but then I immediately was gonna be like, but I would call you a bitch the whole time you played.
Yeah.
This is like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad, but I would make fun of you. I'd be like, oh, you don't even know how to build decks, bro. You just
Try
gotta like
hard.
fucking pay a fucking.
You do bring up something really interesting though, Mike, which is like there is this like class of commanders out there that when you want to play around a specific creature type, it is the obvious choice.
Mhm.
And I think that stuff is really boring in the long run. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you think about elementals and elemental decks, there are tons of elementals that were printed in Ikoria that are very powerful. You have all the different Omnoths that you could play into. Like you can build elementals in a variety of ways. I talked about my Morophon deck earlier, and you're not necessarily pulled towards one commander versus another. With vampires, you really are leaving a lot on the table if you don't pick Edgar Markov and kind of choosing to pick something, maybe a little bit more creative, but probably a little bit more substandard. I feel the same way about Yuriko with ninjas, where it's sort of like if you don't play Yuriko, where does your ninja deck really live? There are definitely options out there, but they just aren't quite as good or as versatile as playing Yuriko. It doesn't play into like the shtick of that creature type as much as that like, the ultimate commander that they printed for that creature type.
Right. Like you could probably take those decks and with no changes improve the deck by switching the commander out into these strongest form commanders, which is kind of a bummer. Like I dislike that as a pattern, as a design pattern.
I mean, there are some people that play Edgar Markov as a mono black commander. Have you seen this?
Oh, and they just don't cast him. Yeah.
They never cast him because you don't need to cast him.
Right. And he only makes black vampires anyway. So
Exactly.
it's on
So-
theme. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's It's really interesting. Or you could play it as like mono white or mono red. Like it is such a versatile commander. And the fact that you don't need to cast it is such like a hallmark of it.
Yeah.
That you can build these specifically kind of janky or worse decks and they're still very good.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, where do you guys think this falls on the top 100 salty cards?
This is a hard one because I feel like in prior years it was probably much higher when Edgar was more popular, but I don't think it gets played as much. I'm gonna say this is 82. I think it's kind of low. I think Edgar Markov has fallen out of favor a bit. And also I don't think many commanders occupy like higher slots in the top 100 salty cards unless they're really, really backbreaking.
I'm gonna say 69.
Nice. Tony takes one.
Whoa.
Hell yeah. I mean, Sam hasn't won in like fucking forever.
Yeah, he's basically bad at the game.
Who's keep
honestly.
track?
Game now.
I don't even care about this game. I don't even care.
Yeah, exactly.
I never even tried to win, so like it doesn't even matter if I
Exactly.
lose.
It comes in at 62.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
Sam, your guess that it was probably higher in previous lists is interesting because the previous year it wasn't even on the top 100
No
cards
way,
list.
really?
Yeah.
That's kind of
So
shocking.
somehow went up. Maybe with reprinting of additional vampires, people became more interested in it again.
Yeah,
But,
I guess
yeah.
so. It did have that Judge promo that was printed in like 2021. I don't know if that plays into it. I just don't see many people playing this anymore.
No, me neither.
Also, shout out to Edgar Markov for having the I think one of the biggest glow downs in Magic history when he became Edgar Charmed Groom, where he was just like a weird brainwashed husband in that strange wedding themed set that they produced.
Yeah. In the first one, he's like a badass with like a bunch of servants like putting armor
He's like
onto
svelte. He like looks good. He's like, yo, put armor on me. And then in the other one, he's just like a weird dude. He's like, got any coins?
And he literally flips into a coffin.
Yeah. He looks like he's asking for change on the street, quite frankly, in the art.
He does.
And he's not good. He just gives vampires +1/+1.
It's got a cool flip effect where when he dies, it comes back and generates additional 1/1s. It's a neat card. But
The thing is, like, I think, first of all, I didn't really love Crimson Vow anyways. I think they did our boy Audric super, super dirty by just making him like a bad Boris vampire. But I think the reprinting of Edgar as a new creature was an opportunity to open up that, like, kind of what we were just talking about, that like vampire design space, and make a new vampire commander that would have been truly interesting to play, still hit those 3 Mardu colors. You know what I mean? Like maybe it is something that you end up, maybe they were afraid of just people putting it in the 99, but obviously it probably wasn't designed with commander in mind.
yeah. Well, that wraps up the salty card of the week.
Well, thanks, Mike. That was a lovely salty card of the week. And thank you to all of our prospectors out there for listening to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine. If you want more Howling Salt Mine, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Howling Salt Mine. We have our Stray Grains, which is our short form series. It's all of the tangents, all of the little asides, all the little stories that don't make it into the final cut of the episodes. Those get taken and sprinkled into the stream for our Patreon members. We also have our Extra Salt series, which is our monthly bonus show. Every month you get an extra episode where we break away from our typical format of reading salty stories and do some more traditional Magic content. We have deck techs on there. We do Q&As. Right now we're doing a series where we're going through every color and talking about our 5 favorite cards from every color. We just did a blue episode, which Tony loves. You know, he loves blue. He's wearing the Blues Trash Color for Trash People shirt right now.
I am.
And I think it's pretty safe to say that we have, I think the last I calculated it, between the Stray Grains and the Extra Salt, we have something on the order of like 14 hours of additional content out there. It's probably a little bit higher. I think we have 3 to 4 hours of Stray Grains alone. So there's a lot of them out there. So if you want some more HSM in your life, check it out. We also have a thriving Discord community. It's tons of fun. We're in there every day chatting with people. We're doing pickup games. And of course, once a month, we're doing our Patreon game nights where we get to jam with the patrons in the salt mine, just running it down. You heard about it earlier where I got mad salty. Tune in. Maybe I'll get fucking tilted and feel really bad about myself. Check out our website if you want to get some Howling Salt Mine merchandise. Right now we have custom Dragon Shield sleeves with the Howling Salt Mine art on them. They are beautiful. It's a lovely shuffle. I don't know if you've ever used custom Dragon Shield sleeves, but they feel great. It's kind of like a mix between a gloss and a matte. I
nice
really
hand
like the
feel.
finish.
Hashtag sponsored.
The hand feel and the mouth feel, quite frankly, is pretty good.
the mouth feel is so good.
And we won't refund you if you eat all of your sleeves, though.
You gotta buy another pack then.
Yeah, you got to buy another pack.
Yeah, buy 2 so you can eat one, honestly.
Yeah.
We also have our bonfire store if you want to get a different type of sleeves. I'm talking shirt sleeves. You know what I'm saying? Cover up your arms with some sleeves and the rest of your body also with a cloth shirt with stuff on it. If you have a salty story that you want to submit to us, you can send it to our Gmail, which is thehowlingsaltman@gmail.com, or submit it to us via our shiny new website that I talked about earlier. We have a submission portal there. All of those will lead to us. You can DM it to us as well. We do our best to capture everything, put it into our queue, and use it for a future episode. Love to read those salty stories, and they really are the lifeblood of the show. So keep them coming. Get some... we have a distinct lack of salty confessionals. I would love to hear about times where you got super, super salty, just like the one I had today. Another way to help with the podcast is to give a 5-star review in your favorite podcast app of choice. That really does go a long way to help the show. I know we say this every week, and I know lots of creators say this stuff, but it's something that just pushes us a little bit higher in the overall algorithm of those apps. And basically what that says to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever is like, hey, let me suggest this growing podcast to other potential listeners out there who may not have heard of it. So it's really useful for us to increase our platform, and it's really easy for you guys to do out there. Lastly, we got to shout him out, our homeboy, JD Burnett, for making our amazing podcast art, which you can get on those custom Dragon Shield sleeves. If you're ever in Ashland, North Carolina, hit him up and get a tattoo. He's a really cool guy.
10,000 subscribers or bust.
Indeed. Well, I think that's it, guys.
Hell yeah.
As always, stay salty, and don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Did we lose Tony?
I think we did. Or he just really doesn't remember this and is like, guys, I can't remember you saying that.
Oh, are you back, Tony?
Hey, welcome back.
My internet connection is unstable, is what Zoom is telling me.
Nice. Fuck yeah.
I'm shocked.
Love that.
Close
Fucking
some of those
Michigan.
hundreds of tabs you got, baby.
That literally won't do anything.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, that'll do so much, actually.
I don't think it'll do shit.
Well,
It's not how the internet works, Tony. It will help you.
Are you
it's a
serious?
series of
Is
tubes.
that actually how that works?
Yes, if tabs are open, your
It
browser
consumes
keeps
more.
Yeah, your browser keeps the web page.
But if they're
active
just like
back.
cached, like
so-
I don't think it like
No,
uses
so
more
if
internet.
if your browser isn't making, if your tabs aren't making any requests, they're not going to use up your internet bandwidth, but they will use up your computer's resources. So your computer might just be shit.
No, the computer is not shit. It's definitely the internet.
But if you have any video,
This is
do you
my
have any
gaming
video
PC,
tabs?
bro.
Do you have any
No.
video tabs or streaming tabs open? You don't have a single Twitch tab open.
I don't.
Don't lie to me.
I don't because I got yelled at one time when I had it on, so I make sure to not have it anymore.
That is good. Also, you should just not have it on. We shouldn't have to yell at you for you to not do that.
I literally just told you that I don't, and you guys are telling me no, you do, and then you're like, okay, good. Now you're yelling at me again, even though I don't
You sure,
have
you
one
sure
on
you
right
don't
now?
have like Amaranth's bubble bath on the side?
Yeah. you know me.
Boys, I'm EP.
EP, he's so cute.
Just
Look
go
at that
play
guy.
Baldur's Gate for the next like 3 hours, and then did you win yet?
Are you winning, son?
No, I think I'm heading into we just got the
had the biggest yawn.
We just got the like, hey, if you're about to go here, you're not turning back.
Oh,
This
wow,
is it.
really?
And so we hit that last night at like 1 a.m.
Tracks.
and I had
Hell
to
yeah.
be in the office by 9, so I had to like leave here at like 8. So I was like,
Woof Saddy.
realistically, if this is one more fight, we could do this right now. But it's
not,
probably
though. You
more
know
like
it's not.
3 hours of gameplay.
Probably 3 hours.
So-
It's gotta be. It's gotta be.
Probably gonna do that
But
tonight.
it's 11 right now, so
Oh, you're hitting that tonight? Oh,
Mike's
man.
about to go fucking
I don't go
do
to
that
bed until
right now.
I mean I work from home tomorrow, so I can sleep in a little bit.
This Eefy boy. This Eefy
I
boy.
didn't say I was gonna be like happy to do it right now, but it's gotta happen. It's
Got
gotta
a big fucking smile on your face.
Oh shucks. It's gotta happen. Oh no.
Oh, darn. Well, I hope you enjoy it, dude. Sounds fun.
Thanks, dude. I'll
I'm
probably
gonna take a fucking shower
might
because
not. I
I've
might
been
just go to
sweating
sleep.
for like 5 hours. It
I
feels.
bet.
How long have we been
It's hot,
recording?
dude. It's hot.
4
4
hours.
hours. Yeah.
4.
I'm
This
fucking
is-
a
This
sweaty
is long.
Betty
These
right
recordings are long.
Yep.
It's so long.
Doubles are hard.
Talking about our favorite cards, talking about decks that we've built. We do deck techs. We just talk about like stories that, let me say that again. We do deck techs where, oh my God, guys, my brain.
late or something?
My brain.
We do deck techs. We do Q&A. We do deck techs, okay?
2 more?
No, this is the last one.
Second one. That was the second
That
one.
was the second one.
I was testing you. You guys passed. Flying colors. Good job.
What, you trying to record till midnight? You goober.
I'm here without you, baby, but you're still on my lonely mind. I think about you, baby, and I dream about you all the time.